I don't know how to describe it other than like a demon type of sound.
But it's silhouetted, hulking, every bit of 5.5 feet wide, 13 to 14 foot tall, pitch black.
The one thing that ran through my mind when I had this encounter was I don't have a big enough gun.
Your host, two-time witness and field researcher for more than 40 years, William Jevning. Welcome to Creek Devil.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Bigfoot Q&A. Tom, what do we got today?
All right, so we have a continuation of questions from Annie in Australia. And thank you, Annie. And by the way, this is a shout out to everybody out there. If you have questions, and if you got a bunch of them, send them our way. Just fire them off and just say, here's question 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, many or as few as you like. That's great. All right, so the first one is, for Bigfoot, is there a specific time that they choose to breed?
Oh boy. Anybody want to take a stab at that? Any ideas?
Say that again.
The moment hits them.
That's my answer.
Whenever the mood strikes, right?
Right.
When they got Trojans,
I think Forrest could probably shed some light on that topic.
Well, estrus occurs at different times in primates, and women cycle every 28 days, and primates. That wasn't something that I necessarily invested a lot of time in thinking about. But anyway, I'd have to look up the different time periods for animals going or primates going into estrus. So I would imagine that estrus usually is brought on with longer sunlight periods in most mammals. So that's why you see animals breeding more in the early spring and summer months. Now, okay, I didn't hear what he said there because he broke up.
I said it wasn't because it was a long winter either.
Well, I don't know how long their winters are where some of them are at. And if the ones in Alaska, they would have to breed in the spring because, we don't know anything about their gestation period either. So we don't know how long their gestation is. So, I have no idea.
Well, I'd almost go Forrest with Bergman's rule. You know, the higher elevations, the further north you go, the bigger the animal is. Well, even the bigger animals like an elephant is 24 months gestation period. So a horse is just like a human. It's a horse is 12 months, a human's 10. I think most of them are 8.
Well, I just looked up
11.
I just looked up
a
chimps.
Horse is 11 months. And a horse, I don't care whether they're in the northern countries or in the southern countries, their gestation period is exactly the same. It's always 11 months for a horse. So, and 163 days for a cat. So,
anyway. I just looked it up for chimps. It says chimps, just like human females, that's menstrual cycles. So some chimps I'm trying to read this. It's some chimps have shorter cycles around 28 days, while others have cycles as long as 45 days.
And usually, once they have a nursing infant on them, they will go at least a year or to 2 years before they will breed back. And that's just, I think, I'm not going to say that's nature. I think that's necessarily more the primates. I think about sex more than other animals, if you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Like with humans, sex occurs at any point in time that we want it to.
Right.
And I think basically the same thing with primates. And like I said, that wasn't the focus of my study with primates, with their sexual habits necessarily. But I'm thinking that, with bonobos, it don't make any difference what time of the year it is, or if you're pregnant or if you're not pregnant, they're going to have sex because that's what they do. That's the way bonobos settle everything with sex.
It looks
Chimpanzees, troglodyte, no.
It looks like with gorillas, it kind of depends on age also.
Well, and that's the same thing with all primates, even with women.
Right.
I mean, the older you get, the less fertile you're going to be. So, I mean...
It says 28 days to 45 days for higher primates.
Yeah, that's probably a good estimation. All right.
And that would work out well. I mean, let's face it, our closest relative is the pan troglodyte, the common chimpanzee.
Right.
And so if they would share the same type of cycling as a human female.
Well, and that's, I mean, I'd go out on a limb on that one as far as Sasquatch is concerned. I'd almost say that if resources are good, Dad's feeling pretty spunky. But if resources ain't so good, I would almost say that, if they're having a hard time surviving, that would stop their cycling. So it's there's a lot of factors that come into that play. So, who knows?
Chuck, any thoughts? Chuck's trying to stay out of this one.
Yeah, I've just been listening to this part of the show.
Nutrition does factor into any type of, impregnation of any kind of animal. I mean, if an animal is not healthy, then they're not going to cycle either.
No, I mean, that's like with the equids. Any of the equids, if they're super infested with worms, they're not going to catch. If they're overweight, they're going to catch. If they're malnourished, they're not going to catch. And I've always, being married to a vet as long as I was, you just sit back and watch, and you just start shaking your head like that mare ain't ever going to catch. You need to take away the omeline because she's way too fat to be pregnant. And then, of course, I'd always get made out to be a liar. Like 3 weeks later, she'd squirt out a baby, and you're like, well, hell, she was already pregnant. No wonder you couldn't get her to catch.
Okay, let's go on to the next question, guys.
All right. So, to what extent has their behavior changed towards people in the time that you've observed them? And I think we have seen some behavioral changes in the last, certainly for you, in the last 50 years.
Well, the one thing I've noticed, from reports and things we've seen in the field is a more aggressive behavior. It's like they're not as afraid of humans, and it's showing.
Yeah, they're almost like they're more disgusted with us that we're even in their.
That's sometimes, yeah.
I think they definitely become more emboldened.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Tom. Oh, where's he at? Tom, are you still muted?
No, I'm here. It's the miracle of modern technology, folks. It auto mutes and auto unmutes. Anyway, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But what I was going to say was my final comment on that is, as far as behavior goes, my favorite one is the ones going for surf and turf at the casino in Oklahoma. I just love that. All right. Will, do you anticipate any future behavior changes?
Well, I mean, if the trend continues, I suspect it'll be like, I've got a contact in India, in northern India, and he knows people in the Indian Special Forces, and they talk about the Yeti, and of course the locals talk about it too. And over there, the creatures have absolutely no fear of people, and Where I suspect here it was like that at one time, maybe a couple hundred years ago, but it's kind of coming full circle again. If our behavior continues the way it's going, then they're going to fill that void, and we're going to start seeing things like that where they just come out and they won't care if people see them.
Well, and Will, I've talked about this in the past, that it almost seems like the ones that are around in higher human areas of higher human population density, spit that one out, Tom, tend to be not quite as aggressive as the ones in areas where maybe they don't have as much contact with humans. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, where there's more people, they're going to have reason to be a little more cautious. Where there's less people, what's the point? You're in their territory.
Right. Good point. Okay, so the next question is their development. For example, toddler, teenage, would that be the same as in humans?
Oh, what do you think,
Or
Forrest?
not in humans. Is it the same as with humans, I should say?
What do you think, Forrest?
I think, development rates in primates are different than humans. We are actually slower to develop from toddlers to adolescents to young adults into an adult stage. We're very slow in our development period. Not so much with other primates. They develop rapidly, and as compared to ours, they're slower as compared to other mammals, but there's a reason for that. They're living in the wild. So I'm assuming that, I've always said that I thought Bigfoot is a primate. There's a lot of people that are going to disagree with me out there, and I always have to put that little sidebar out there, that little disclaimer out there that, until I'm proven wrong, then that's what I'm sticking with. So I think they're in their developmental stages are going to be more like the common gorilla or chimpanzee, and they're going to develop at a faster rate than what we do. And I think we kind of see that when we talk about it, we don't see a lot of infants. We do have reports that people do see some, but we don't see them as many as we do the larger juveniles. And the juveniles can be anywhere from, upwards to 6 feet, and they're not usually very old animals, I don't think. So,
I was told. I was told through my sources that their growth rate is much faster than humans. So, I guess the question is, we're talking other primates, gorillas, chimps, orangutans.
It would stand to reason it would be faster.
How fast do they mature? From when first born to when they're considered an adult.
Well, it's like with chimpanzees. An adult chimpanzee is usually a 7 or 8 year old female can breed, and that's what you usually go by. Now your males will attempt such if they give it a much younger age. Your macaques are usually 3 or 4 before they're fully developed and ready to breed, and your males again are going to be developing at a faster rate. They usually are much more sexually active at a younger age, but you're a fully adult, they have long lifespans. Chimpanzees have long lifespans, as do gorillas like us. They live into their 60s, so that's a long lifespan. And so, you've got adults that are 15, 20 years old, and that is considered a fully developed adult. And usually 7, 8 is your, we would call a teenager, but we do know human teenagers get pregnant too. So,
the Sasquatch is probably similar.
Yeah, similar to the development in a gorilla or a chimpanzee, and in that respect, yes.
Something I would say too, if people out there don't think
specific years to it, I don't know, because we don't even know how long they live.
Right. If people out there,
I'm thinking
people out there
that it would be like a gorilla,
Right. If people out there disagree with the idea that a Sasquatch is a primate, I would say, well, what do you think they are? And don't say humans, because humans are primates.
Primates. Exactly.
So explain yourself when you disagree with that. Okay,
yeah.
Tom.
And I
One final comment that I want to say regarding human maturity versus primate maturity or Sasquatch maturity. You could have humans, and I've seen them, that are well into their midlife, and have they matured yet?
Well, we're not talking physical maturity.
We're going to leave it at that.
That's emotional maturity and
Right.
not physical maturity.
Right. Place myself in that category. All right. Okay. Do you think that they're going to become more of a threat to humans? Would that make them an easier target for humans to kill or trap them?
Well, let's go around the table and see what everybody thinks.
think it already has.
David, what do you think?
They become more of a threat?
Can you read that question one more time, Tom? I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you think they will become more of a threat to humans? Would that make them an easier target for humans to kill or trap them?
If they're in a heavily populated area of humans, I could actually see that kind of going either way.
Yeah, I was going to say I think they're going to be more dangerous to humans than we are to them before all this is said and done.
Yeah, I agree. TW, what do you think?
I think, well, here's the problem. Sorry, radio was going nuts. It goes back to the old adage I used to tell, I get into fights with my professors about, what's more dangerous, a grizzly bear or American black bear. Pound for pound, a grizzly bear is going to be more dangerous by sheer size alone. Here's the difference. If a grizzly bear may not intentionally try to do you harm, but by its sheer size, it's going to do damage. If a black bear's coming after you, he means to do damage. He has intent to do damage. And you may not always get that with a grizzly bear. With these creatures, I think, just my own personal opinion, by sheer size alone, they're more dangerous to us. But by either by design or by luck, intelligence, we're more dangerous to them. So take from that what you will.
That makes sense, TW, because if one of these things, we'll go into hypothetics here. If one of these things was to kill a human and it became known, one-on-one, there's no way. But what's going to happen is you're going to have a bunch of humans like hornets, and they'll be relentless until they find and exterminate the one that they think is a threat. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Well, that's already been proven several times, or at least surmised several times over. If one becomes a predatory or becomes a for lack of a better term, a nuisance. Our own government sending out kill teams to take care of them. And that seems to be a real issue, is that, how much of a danger are they? Well, if they're sending out a team of SF operators, and by sheer volume of firepower alone, not the weapon by itself, but the number of bullets expended at one target that takes these out, yeah, we're pound for pound probably more dangerous to them. It's kind of like the parasite versus the host. Who's going to ultimately win that battle? It's not always the host.
Kind of a numbers
because
game.
The parasite, tremendous amount of damage.
A good point.
All right, Tom, what do we get next?
Okay, so the next question is, I like this one, is do we use heat sensor equipment to find these things, apparently, and do we have any stories? I don't know if we have any stories that we can relate.
Well,
but I'll just throw it out there.
I got one.
Well, I have one too. Remember we had the retired Army First Sergeant, used to be part of the group. First part of that question is, yes, I do have a thermal. But the second one was, he went to, remember the couple in Alabama that had the creatures on their property? Well, he actually went to their property and did pick up the creatures on thermal.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the same ones that were like frisky?
There were two kinds of the creatures there. Forrest, there was one question that was on the comments that I saw this morning, and I can't remember. I'm sorry, I don't have the person's name at hand, but or a screen name. But they asked last time we were talking about, or you were talking about, autism in chimps or primates, and she said, or he or she said, that you didn't get a chance to finish. That something had happened or come into the conversation where you didn't get a chance to finish that. So they were hoping you could elaborate some more on that.
Well, at that particular time, I had actually gone and pulled out some books and stuff and had brushed up on the subject there. Autism, as it occurs in humans, does not occur like that in chimpanzees and gorillas and monkeys as such. They develop, they have noted in chimpanzees and macaques especially, the ones that are confined in laboratories, they have found that they will develop autistic type of symptoms. And it has to do with the fact that they are confined and the way they are confined. And I think I had said something to you about, there's a primate center over at the University of Washington, and it's a very sore subject with me because years ago, back in the 40s and 50s, they were studying those macaques for deprivation of maternal love, and then they were giving them nothing but a rolled-up towel to cling to, and their bottles were mounted on a face that looked like a monkey, but they didn't actually have a mother that could comfort and love. And
I saw some stuff on that, yeah.
Yeah. And they did this study, and guess what? At the end of the study, they said, guess what? Monkeys and chimpanzees, the apes, the great apes, and the monkeys, they all are primates, and just like humans, they need love. They need that maternal nurturing.
Took all that for them to figure it out.
Yeah, it took, and you know what? They're still effing doing the same laboratory experiments 50 years later on these poor animals. And you want to see Forrest get angry and upset and cry? Yes, I do. It brings me to tears because these animals react the same way we do. They don't have a mother to take care of them. That's the way they're gonna turn out to be an absolute. You wonder why we have criminals roaming the streets, usually because they lack nurturing and maternal care. Mm-hmm. They lack the family structure. Well, it works the same exact way with any other kind of primate. I don't care down to the lowest order of simians. They all work the same way. And you can produce these autistic type of results. I've never seen or ever heard of anybody saying that a primate was born that way.
Right.
Like human children are. But they force them into these experiments, and then they start acting that way. They act just like an autistic child. They act they act like a lot of different things that we see in children today, which they call ADHD and ADD. I mean, everything's got a name nowadays. I used to when I went to school, and when you went to school too, Will.
Right.
They're just a little overactive. That's all they are. They're just a little overactive. Give them something to do. They'll be fine.
You need an outlet for that.
They usually won't.
That's right. You need an outlet for that behavior.
Yeah, and usually what? It worked. But, nowadays everything's got to have a label. Everything's got to have a name.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I rest my case. There you go. It does not occur naturally in animals. I mean, I couldn't find it anywhere in any of my books that said that this is something that they had ever seen naturally occurring. So
okay. Well, hopefully for
anyway.
our listener, that answers your question. Tom, what do we got? We got time, I think, for one, maybe two more questions.
Okay. So this is a question for Forrest. And actually, it's a three-part question, so we may have to do part of this now, and we can definitely pick it up on the next Q&A. But, okay, so part A is, if the Sasquatch migrate, are there times of the year that you can count on, excuse me, where there is no threat to you and your property, from the Sasquatch?
Well, yeah, in at least the areas that I've studied, they're only going to be there for about within a 30-day time frame. The rest of the year, you're pretty much clear. But it depends on the region.
Well, I was only seeing mine through or having any type of thing happening around here, usually in the early fall and the spring months. Sometimes a little bit in the summer, but here of late, it's almost a year-round thing now here.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the part of the country, the variety of creature there is, and what their resources are. And if they don't have a reason to leave, why would they leave?
Well, and we've got plenty of deer around here,
right?
And there obviously they're feeding on that because they are not bothering my cats, my dogs, or my horses. So.
Yeah, I've seen different movement patterns in different regions, so it really depends. It's kind of a subjective topic. It depends on the individual group, where they are, resources, I suppose weather plays an effect, all of that stuff, human population, all that.
Topography, the different parts of the country, it's all going to vary. Yeah,
right.
What you're going to see a Sasquatch do up in Alaska versus one down in Florida are probably, totally different things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, Tom, what was the next part of that?
Well, if you're in your backyard and you're watering the garden or whatever, and one of them happens to just run by you, is it okay to squirt him? And are there any repercussions for that?
TW, that's your question.
No, I can answer that question with a big no. I'm just gonna let him run on by.
That's TW's question there.
Don't squirt them. You end up missing digits.
Otherwise,
in the middle of the night.
Otherwise, what might happen?
Is it a delayed response?
No, TW has the answer.
No, they come in your house, they whip us and send you to the hospital, and then they tear your house apart and pee on the walls. Don't do it.
And bite your finger off. Don't do that. Okay.
Don't do that.
Next part.
Okay. That actually wasn't in there. I just threw that in there. But you guys probably figured that out. I love that story. Okay. In general, but this part is, in general, do you feel safe on your property?
Forrest?
Forrest?
Well, I'm not quite sure how to answer that. Let me put it this way. I have never been a scaredy cat. I have never been one of these kind of women that I was fearful. And even now, I'm really not. But let me put it this way. I have changed some of my things that I do and the way I go around here. It would never bother me to go walking down in the dark without a flashlight or anything else down to my barn, or I've even walked out in the woods sometimes looking for coyotes when I thought some were out there and I didn't take a flashlight with me. I would not do that anymore. I don't have flashlights, honey. I have spotlights, and I am far more cognizant of my surroundings now. I had to kind of laugh, Will, at something you said earlier about telling Tom that he needed to look on the ground. As having an archaeological degree as well, that was the way we were always trained. Always look. I'd be one of these that I'd walk right into a damn Bigfoot.
Because there could be stuff right on the surface.
Head first.
Yeah.
Because I would be looking on the ground for stuff. That's the way I walk around, looking all the time.
You recall
and I'd walk head first in one.
That's what they teach you in the archaeology field school, is look on the ground, because sometimes things are right on the surface.
Yeah. So I'd be the one that I would run head on in one, and but
not a good plan.
I have changed my behavior, and because and Chuck even knows this. There were times that we would talk on the phone, and I knew damn well. If you remember that time when I used to have a kennel right next to the window, and something came up and growled at the window, and that dog, that big Belgian Malinois, she melted into the floor of that kennel.
Yep.
And just kept staring at that window. Yeah. And I have changed my behavior. I don't think they have, but I've changed mine. So, I'm more cognizant of what I'm doing, and I don't give them the opportunity to catch me off guard.
Always a good plan. Well, we're about out of time, so should we go around the table and any final thoughts, comments, or anything from anyone? Tom, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, listen, thank you everybody for tuning in for the Q&A this week. And as always, if you like the show, let us know. Be sure and click the like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And you can support the show through Patreon. We always include a link in the description. And if you got any questions, send them our way to questions@creekdevil.com.
David, how about you?
As far as areas they claim and how long they're there, if you're somebody who is experiencing activity where you live, if you have, and it seems to be year-round, if you have a favorable climate, good resources, they're probably not going to go anywhere.
All right. Chuck, how about you?
If you go out in the woods, keep your head on a swivel.
I can't agree more.
Their behavior is changing, and it's something that people need to be aware of.
TW?
Don't squirt them with water hose. Bad idea.
Forrest, how about you?
I am definitely not squirting them with water hose.
All right, everyone.
And I won't carry my 357.
And don't take his jerky either.
Oh, yeah. Oh, big no-no. All right. With that, we'll wrap. Thanks, everyone. Join us again next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creek Devil. If you or anyone you know has had an encounter with these creatures, please contact us at williamjevning@yahoo.com. That's William, Jevning @yahoo.com. All communication is confidential. Join us for another program next week. And until then, keep your eyes open out there.